I'm Sequoia from sequoialandsews.wordpress.com, and today here on my YouTube channel I am doing a pattern review and a sewing demonstration for the RAD Lucky Undies. I recently cleaned out my fabric storage down in the basement, obviously not this area, and I found tons, like 3 huge totes full of large scraps, and I just wanted them out of there. As a plus size sewist, I need bigger pieces of fabric to make the clothing that I wear or make for others. So it left me with tons of little remnants, but they weren't so little that I want to throw them away. So I saved them. So now I have 3 bins of them, and I've been kind of on a mission to come up with some ideas of what I could do to get those totes emptied out and used up and see what we can make. So I really kind of thought about it, and I decided I wanted to master the perfect underwear fit. As a plus size lady, I have a hard time just walking into the store and buying underwear that fit me. I'm very hard to fit in the stomach area compared to my hip area, compared to my lack of booty area. So by sewing my own, I can get the perfect fit, make the adjustments I need. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how I'm making underwear pattern fit my rounded shape, and customizing the fit that I need so I can successfully sew great underwear. So stay tuned, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'm going to sew up some underwear with you. Okay, before we get started sewing, let's talk a little bit about the Lucky Undies pattern. First of all, it's inclusive up to a 68-inch hip, which is a huge size range, and it's fabulous for the entire spectrum of sizes and shapes, which is really a great thing. RAD is one of the more inclusive designers, so they're definitely worth checking out. This pattern includes I don't know the technical term, but basically 4 different amounts of booty coverage. That's basically the technical term. We'll go with it. So 4 different amounts of booty coverage, and it goes, I have the pattern pieces for you so we can get a better look. These are printed in my size, which I am a 2X in the RAD pattern chart. So I printed the entire I guess the entire PDF. I wanted all the sizes, all the options, so I could really compare. But first off, there is these pieces are print from home, or you can pay to ship them out, ship them back, projector, whatever you got going on. But the first least amount of coverage is the thong. Visualize this as half, because you're going to cut on folds. First of all, I'm not down with this. I need some booty coverage. So the next option is the cheeky. So this is going to put some fabric on your booty, but you're going to be showing just a little bit. Nothing crazy. This has actually turned out to be my favorite one. So this is the cheeky option. We'll save that. We won't toss it aside. The next one is the bikini, which is not quite total full coverage, but really good coverage. And finally, this is the brief option. So I'm going to put these 2 together just to kind of show you the difference. See how the brief has just a little bit more booty coverage? It comes out about a ½ inch. So really, it's your preference. The first ones I sewed up was the brief option, and I did a brief. I did 2 different rises. It comes with a high rise and a mid rise, and I kind of like a higher rise because I really don't like when my underwear slide down during the day, and that tends to happen if you're a little more round in the belly. So what I did to kind of fix that, actually this is my example. These are the brief mid-rise with a little bit of a grade towards the middle belly to bring that up a little bit higher. And I'll show you, it'll be easier to see on the pattern piece. But that tends to be what I do. It's kind of like a full belly adjustment. I do it on all my pants, all my skirts, all my underwear. I just need the extra room. Another thing that I did, which I think maybe, I don't know if designers frown upon it, but I typically cut one size smaller for the back than the front. I'm not joking when I say I have a very little booty. My body got misplaced. It all ended up in the front. It's fine. I deal with it. But these are actually one size smaller in the back compared to the front. And I'm going to show you how we adjust for that when we get a little more into the sewing portion. But these are the briefs. And these are the cheeky, which turned out to be my favorite. This is the front. And the back is very similar. And you can tell more on these how this layer is my front. So this is my belly and how I give myself a little bit more coverage up front. But this is the cheeky option, which turned out to be my favorite. So let's take a look at, I'm going to cut and get the camera up close so I can show you exactly how I made adjustments to my pattern to get the fit I wanted. So if you have the same or similar fit issues as I do, you'll know how to fix them for yourself. Alright, now I'm ready to spend a few minutes telling you exactly how I adjusted the pattern to fit my body. First of all, I kind of want to say that no matter how well drafted a pattern is, you're probably going to have to make some sort of adjustments. Everyone's body is specific to them. So a designer, it would be impossible for them to be able to fit every single issue on every single pattern for every single person. It would be impossible. So learning how to make adjustments is a big part of really perfecting your sewing. For me, that's often, I always do a bicep adjustment. I always do a bust adjustment. I adjust the length of things. The more you do it, the more you learn. So you'll see fairly quickly what you need. So with this pattern, I knew I wanted to increase the front coverage simply because I like my panties to come up higher in the front. And you can see on this example that this is the back. This is the booty coverage section that we've been calling it, compared to the front. And you can see how I've curved this upward, and that just gives me a little more coverage in the front, which is where I appreciate it. And that's one of those custom things that you cannot, you can't go to the store and look for something with a higher front cut simply because you need it. So let me show you how to make that adjustment in case you need a full belly adjustment in your panties. I do a similar adjustment sometimes on some pants. It just depends on the pattern. So let's talk about this. I'm going to set these aside. This is the back brief, which is the fuller booty coverage. And I just wanted to compare. This is the actual pattern as it's printed. I printed a couple different sizes so you can kind of see the difference in them. The purple line here is the size I am actually using, which is the 1X. And but I wanted to show you, I printed this actually to show you that this particular pattern comes with 3 different rise options. It has the hipster, the mid-rise, and the high-rise. So depending on where you want them to fit your body is the cut line you'll choose. I chose, as you can see from my pattern, first let me tell you why I chose. I want more front coverage, so I used a higher cut line for my front. You can see here that I went with midway between the hipster and the mid-rise, but I graded up halfway between the mid-rise and the high-rise, and that will give me more coverage in the front without coming so far up my side. So this is like your belly area, the fold area, and this would be your hip. So I didn't want, like, I don't know, maybe that's like 8 inches. I didn't want my side panel to come up like 8 inches on my side. So I'm just simply grading from halfway between the hipster line and the mid-rise line up to halfway between the mid and the high-rise. So for this to work, you have to make sure that your side, the side of both pair of your panties, you need that to be the same length so you can sew them together without, so you can sew them together evenly. So to do that, I took my front panty pattern and kind of laid it on my back, just so I can get an idea of the actual length of the pattern. So as you can see, I've got them pretty close to the same here and here. So I just laid my pattern pieces before I cut it. So let's make it easier. This is my front. This is how much distance I need the hip coverage area to be, like the side. So I sort of lined up my front because we know that's straight. And then I just drew my line the length that I needed it, which came to about here and here. So this was the mid-cut line. If I would have graded my front down even farther, I would also grade my back down even farther. It's just important that these 2 points, these 2 side panels, sorry, are the same. So on the front, I graded up for more coverage. On my back, I actually want to grade down. It's just a personal fit. This would have been fine at the mid-rise level, but when I would wear like jeans or leggings or something, the back of my underwear would be higher than the jeans I would wear, which I'm not sure why that bothers me so much, but it really annoys me when you can see people's underwear. So I'm grading mine down. Even though it looks pointy here, when they're actually on, it doesn't. It looks fine. It's just it's below the pant line, which is what's important to me. So those are the adjustments I made, and you would do the same thing for, like this is the hipster brief, same pattern piece, just a different cut line. I did the exact same thing because I'm using the same, I wanted the same belly coverage for my, the cheeky coverage, which was the less booty coverage. I want the same coverage in the front because the actual cheeky front pattern, I can show you, I wanted far more coverage than this piece offered. So this is the actual cheeky front cut in my size, and I need way more coverage than that because belly, you know. So I wanted to adjust to use my same pattern piece that I'd already added belly coverage to fit the cheeky back. So kind of similar to what we did here, I just need to make this pattern a little bit bigger. So all you need to do is take some scrap paper, and you can imagine this, I can show you. So this was the original pattern. I just need to be able to line up the 2 points of the side panel and make them match the distance here. So you do that just like you do any adjustment where you're adding. You basically just tape paper, tape some scrap paper right on there. Know how big you're shooting for, so you can even roughly. Those are our 2 marks. That's where I need my corner points to be. So let me just pull this out of the way and I can just show you. You want your side to be the same, and it's safe to assume that you would just put this in the middle, put your pattern piece in the middle of your add-on. So I'm adding to both the top and the bottom. I wanted a little bit more extra added to the top because I wanted a little bit higher of a leg opening. So maybe I split that. I don't know. Let's see. I did about 1 inch compared to almost 1.5 inches. So slightly not centered. But then you would just add, you could, I should have grabbed a bigger scrap. But if you have your corners marked, you can use your, one of your either curves or straight. This one happens to be curved, but I did use a straight. And then you would just roughly, you can use a straight edge there if you want. Outline your new, and I'm just doing this quickly. And then you could just cut out and tape together, just like you would adjust any pattern. And this just gives us the exact same side seam for the front and the back. Since I wanted more front coverage, that hip needs to be the same to match. But that's how you easily adjust for a little bit more coverage if that's your thing. This is personally how I did it. I'm sure there's a million ways and someone will probably tell me. But this is how I did it, and obviously it's worked for me. So hang out for just a minute. I'm going to reposition the camera, and we're finally going to sew up some Lucky Undies. Okay, now we're all set to start our assembly. And I've already clipped together my front and back panels. Go ahead and clip them at both side seams as well as the crotch seam. And I'm going to use my serger because it's fast, but you can totally use your sewing machine, and you'll just want to use your favorite stretch stitch, whether it's just a zigzag or a triple zigzag, whatever you prefer. So we'll go ahead and stitch these. And I like to, I guess, I consider this chain piecing. I was a quilter before a garment maker, so I like to save my thread. You can go ahead and clip all those. Get down, you're not going to be in the video. Nope, you're not sewing. This is Millie. I'm not even sure if you can see her on the camera, but she's currently standing on my leg, acting like she is helping. She's not. So we have sewn, now essentially we have a pair of panties in the shape of panties. This pattern comes with a crotch gusset, which I think maybe some people don't like to go through the trouble of adding them, but I do. I mean, nobody wants a seam in your parts. So, it just kind of lays. I like to kind of split it halfway. The pattern actually doesn't have any sort of marking to say you're in the right spot, but I just go with it. So I start by clipping the middle first, so I can be sure that my seam allowance underneath this layer is flat, not twisted midway through. And then I actually usually sew this on my sewing machine, but for the sake of not having to set up the camera over there, we're going to go ahead and go with the serger. It'll be fine. I actually made this gusset piece a little bit longer than the pattern. I maybe added about 1 inch. I felt it was kind of short. But again, personal preference. So we'll go ahead and stitch that down. And really you can use, if you're using your sewing machine here, you would just use like a basting stitch, because this will really get sewn in place when we add the elastic or binding, whichever you're choosing for to finish your legs. And really I shouldn't be trimming anything off there, but it's kind of fiddly. That's why it's a lot easier to use your sewing machine for this step and just do a basting stitch. But it'll be fine. It's not a crucial step. Now I have a dog laying on my foot, my presser foot, or my power cable foot, whatever. I can feel a dog tail laying on it. I guess they really do like to be right with you. So there we have the gusset sewn in, where you can sew it or baste it. So the next step is adding the elastic or bands. I prefer picot elastic. First of all, it's way cuter than bands. Comes in tons of colors and edge designs. I actually have 3 laying here for panties that I plan on making today, and you can see that they're all different. But I like them. They hold up a little bit better, especially like I'm using brushed poly band, like a waistband for brushed poly would be sliding off all day. So I prefer the elastic. The pattern does give you the measurements that you would need to cut, but since I adjusted so much, I need to measure, which I've already done. But I'm going to show you if you're measuring. I just go ahead and fold them hip to hip. Use those seams. And then just use your flexible ruler. So mine's almost a 10 for the front, and you would add that to 9.5. So 9.5 and 9.5, 19 inches. Plus 10 and 10 was 20. So I'm trying to math in my head. 18? No. Sorry. 38. Probably 38.5 to be safe, but you need to multiply that by 85%. So whatever your calculator, because I can't even come close to doing math with percents in my head. But I make a note right on my pattern for the future, so I will know that my leg elastic needs to be 22 inches and my waist needs to be 32 inches, and that's after the total number is multiplied by 32, or multiplied by 85%, sorry. So that's all you need to do to calculate your elastic. If you're not familiar, anytime you use an elastic, before you cut it, you want to stretch it. This is called exercising the elastic, because it will, like if you don't do this prior, it'll stretch out over time. So you want to get it warmed up and already stretched as much as it's going to stretch, so it doesn't change once you've sewn it onto your garment. So that's going to be our next step. I'm going to show you how to add the elastic, and we're going to do that on the sewing machine. So give me a minute to move the camera, and I'll be right back with you. So we finally made it to the very end of my tutorial for you guys. The last step is applying the elastic, and as you can see, I've already done the waistband in one leg. That way I won't bore you to death sewing elastic for 3 days. It really doesn't take that long, but I'm gonna show you with one leg band. I just simply overlap, and I just hold it right under my presser foot and do just a couple lines back and forth to kind of secure those ends. This gets sewn into the leg band really well, so it's not going to pull loose or anything. The important thing here is to just make sure that you don't have any twists, that your elastic will lay flat. them off your tails. And then we're going to go ahead and quarter this, which simply means you're going to find the where the elastic overlaps. That's always the center back. So fold at the center back and pull it down to the opposite end. This will be the center front. And then line up your front and back points. And this will give you your 2 additional quarter points. And this is how you know you're getting your elastic applied evenly, so it doesn't pull unevenly. The first pair of underwear I ever made, I had no idea what I was doing. I had never used elastic in a way like this, and didn't realize, like, I was just sewing it, pulling the elastic in like a long strip, and I was doing a swimsuit and it like crunched up like this. So definitely don't do that. So we also need to find our quarter points on our panties. So again, the only seam you're going to have here is where we sew the front and back together at the hip. So we'll call that our center back for this leg. And work your way to the middle of the crotch at the gusset. This is what we'll call the center front, just for the sake of this video. And then we'll put the hip seam and the center front, aka crotch seam, or crotch gusset, I suppose. Put those together, and that will give us a quarter point. And then I mark with pins. I prefer pins in this case because I feel it holds a little more secure when you're stretching your elastic. Okay, and this is the last one. And then this will have our leg opening divided up into 4 equal sections, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so to apply our elastic, and this is sometimes called lingerie elastic or picot, and sometimes there's a front and a back. I tend to put the softer side towards my skin, just because why wouldn't you want the softer side on your skin? Okay, so we're going to line up our center back to our center back, so both of those seams together, right sides together. And then I like to sew with my elastic on top because then I can kind of make sure I'm on track. So I pin on top as well, so we don't sew over any of those seams. Or I'm sorry, so you don't sew over any pins. Okay, and the last one, all right, so to do this step, I like to use a regular zigzag, and to be real honest, a lot of times my machine will break my thread when I'm sewing through the elastic and the other layers, so I try to just go slow, hope for the best, but we'll see what happens. It may break, but it happens. So go ahead and, if your machine has a setting where you can keep your needle down, that's nice when sewing elastic. And then just a gentle stretch so that your elastic is flat. You don't want to stretch your actual panties, just the elastic. And I try to zigzag right along the decorative edge. So my zigzag is touching here and over here. Just go along. This, you have to do a lot of adjusting to get it on there straight. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Do what you got to do. Go slow. After a couple pairs, this gets a lot easier. My first ones were terrible. And I was like, oh. But I've improved. But like I said, I still break my thread. I still sew off the edge sometimes. Like, it happens to everybody. Just keep going. Sewing should be fun. Like, I feel like some people get really stressed out about it, but sewing is like my fun thing. So I don't freak out. So as you can see, I repositioned this a lot. I had a really nice acrylic table, and you may have seen it in some of my other videos, but it broke. It actually just cracked right in half, which was really disappointing. It was a pretty expensive table from Viking, but yeah. So I really should replace it, but I have it. So then just be careful to remove your pins. I actually sewed through one of those flower pins recently. It was between my layers, so I didn't even know it was there. And I guess lucky, my needle went straight through it, and it literally sewed it in the garment, which was kind of crazy. It certainly could have broken my needle and did either damage to my machine, or, I mean, it could have broken, went in my face or anything. But yeah, actually this is probably the needle. How crazy. You probably can't see the two holes right there in the, the head of this pin. That is bizarre since I was just talking about it. Yep, stitched it right in between the layers. I was like, what in the world is wrong with this? I feel like that's something that would happen while filming. And then you just look foolish. We're almost to the end. And then we're going to have some really cool underwear. I'm pretty excited about these. I have a shirt made out of this fabric. I actually got this from Stitchin' Pretties a couple seasons ago. If you follow my blog, you know I'm a big supporter of Stitchin' Pretties. The majority of my wardrobe is from Stitchin' Pretties. Just great quality, great customer service. So clip your tails. Anything that's messy, just go ahead and clip them off. This is where I also look to make sure I didn't miss that I caught the actual panty fabric. See, that was really close, but it's in there, so it's going to be fine. Just because you don't want a hole. Okay, last step is actually sewing down. I remain on my, and this is just a quick flip. So just turn it over, slide it in. Again, if you have a fixed stitch, go ahead and do it. And I like to guide my fabric right along the toe of my presser foot to kind of keep myself going straight. And still continually adjust your fabric. That's the best way to keep it nice and flat. gets a little bulkier when you get to where you're sewing through the elastic twice, because we've now turned the fabric twice, plus 2 layers of gusset because we've also turned that. So just slow down, go slow. It's a little bit bulky, but your machine should be fine. And if it does kind of, sometimes it'll kind of bog down your machine where it'll just get kind of stuck in one spot. Just give it a little bit of a, just a gentle, tiny pull from the back, just to kind of boost it along. Sometimes I'll have that happen if I'm sewing thick layers. So as you can see, my camera cut off there at the very end, but I did want to show you our finished product with all the elastic in place. And I wanted to just encourage you to give this pattern a try, or use this method for an adjustment if it might work better for your body. Feel free to leave me a message, leave me a comment, hit the like and subscribe button, and thanks for sticking around.